Hello Gyre, this is Heather Newton, reviewing your shop page and rules for your social deduction entry, Boom Boom Hero. So we'll start with your shop page and move on to the rules. First of all, the top of the page, the header image. I think you've done a great job here with lots of bright colors and making the idea of the game really quickly apparent using the picture. I can see that it's going to involve making hand gestures, and it's going to be a pretty high energy game, or that's the impression I get without having played it yet. And then the picture here above the buy button, that one I would say it's a little bit distracting that it is very similar. It's got a lot of the same elements, the exact same elements as what you already have in the hero image, and this image is for displaying over the top of the hero image. I would rather see something that is not a full bleed rectangle, but I'd aim for it to be not much wider than the buy button so it doesn't obstruct too much of your header image. Maybe something like a PNG with a transparent background I think could work better there. Like, honestly, maybe even just that that thumbs up all by itself with the circle around it, just so it stays separate, or maybe with sort of a POW burst around it above the image, I think would be less visually distracting and confusing rather than repeating the same information twice. It's not, I haven't docked any points for it or anything, but it's just a suggestion for improvement for continuing to sell your game on the Game Crafter. And I'll move on down here to the cool factors that you've written, and I think you did a good job of making them connect really specifically to your game and what is unique about your game. Starting off with POW, again, going back to the comic book theme and reconnecting to it and finding many places to remind and make everything cohesive around this comic theme, I think is a good call. And we have in your written content, you've done some things to add headings, and you broke up your writing into pretty small paragraphs, which I think is the way to go. It makes it easier to read, to have more white space. And you start off with the kind of what is the point, and then a little bit of story. I think that's great too. And especially you ask for the vote in the social deduction contest, and I think you did a really great job on getting out the vote. We can see if we check over here, you're the top voted in community votes, and you have more than twice as many as the next person after you. And really it's just because you asked people for what you wanted. You asked for them to vote. And you even did it in your rules book. So if you were sharing your shop page for feedback or your rules for feedback, people were seeing that you were in the social deduction contest, and you were asking them. The best way to get people to move is just to ask them to do something. So you did a great job, and I think it's a good example for other people to follow. And then this thing at the bottom, where this is kind of a call to action too, where you're saying download the rules and download the print and play. It's slightly confusing because this is already kind of set up as a call to action with the bright colored button that's just part of the template for the Game Crafter shop page. So I'm not sure this is really necessary or adding anything. It's not detracting a ton, but it's something you could consider removing, in my opinion. Also can see the components on your shop page, some details about the components here. And I'm checking for your box, and one thing I would say, I think you've done a good job with your box, is making sure all the sides have something interesting on them. I mean, I like the kind of rainbow colored player images on the short sides of the box. I might suggest making sure no matter which side of the box was sticking out, like if you imagine this at a game store and somebody just puts it back on the shelf carelessly, that rather than just a pretty image, that they could see the name of the game on every side. I might add the logo for the game on those two sides with the characters for the final version. And then we'll go down to the action shots. And this is something I saw with a lot of different entries, but commonly people are putting their just images of their cards, and this automatically scrolls, so it's hard to read anything in the pictures that go in your action shots. Or if you are going to put something that needs to be read, you would want there to be very few words on what people are reading. I would rather see these kind of images in the rule book, like in a reference page on the back of the rule book or something, like whichever ones you feel like you need to include. I'd rather see them there. This image here is the kind of thing that I want to see, a layout of how to play or the game in action. And especially for your game, your action shots are not bad, and I didn't dock points for them. They're good images. I just think the card images would be better placed somewhere, like when I'm trying to read them and they're moving, it's frustrating. I'd rather read them in a, you have your print and play actually where I can read them already, so I don't really need them here. I'd rather see the cards in action, and especially with your game where it looks like it's a very raucous kind of thing where you're making all these hand gestures. I think it would be more useful here to have pictures of people playing the game and laughing, and then people can imagine themselves in that situation and see quickly whether or not they think this is a good fit for their group of friends. So now let's go to your rule sheet. And the rule sheet and the shot page are very cohesive in their style. Your rule book has really good graphic design, really advanced graphic design. And you also put, like I said before, the prompt for people to vote for you in the Game Crafter Challenge, so I think that's really good. You have a components list that doesn't only list the components, but even shows pictures and images of what the components look like, which I think is important because it helps people quickly identify that everything is in the box when you're first opening a game to play. You need to make sure you have all the pieces, and it's much easier and faster and smoother to find all the pieces if you see photographs of them or images of them. And I know how many. It includes counts, so I can count and make sure no pieces are missing. So that's important, and I think you did good there. With the story, I think it's a good attempt at story, and the overall idea is a compelling story. We are apprentices learning to fight with, this is where I'm confused. Like, do we all have boom gauntlets? What role does the boom gauntlet play? And why do I want to be the boom hero? Is it an award I win, or I get the job, or it just is not clear with what you've written. The general idea is captivating, but I think this story is very in the weeds with components and like trying to make these square damage tokens thematic by saying there will be virtual red cubes floating around you as you're playing, and I'm just not sure. I'm like, you can say that there's virtual red cubes floating around me, but I don't think I'm going to make the leap when I actually play the game. So it's not necessary. I would say it's not necessary to refer to the red cubes. I would rather just hear more story, what my motivation is, like why I hope I win, what's at stake. That to be focused on more, and really this also could probably just be shorter, and you could potentially save space that you might need for other things in your rule book. But I like that you start out with the overview and the story, so you get people in the right frame of mind before they have to start the more boring part of learning how to play the game. One thing I do feel in general about the rules is that they seem like they might be a little overly complex for the fun, silly game that I'm getting the impression this is. And so I don't know if it's going to feel overly complex when actually playing, or if a lot of it's going to just turn out to be intuitive. I feel like some of this stuff, like you did a good job having examples. I think it's really helpful and important to have examples of play and how you resolve things, how you score things. You have examples for everything, which is really good. It helps people learn to play the game as they're reading. But I'm not sure after I've played it, since this one did make it to the finals, make it past the semifinals, and I will be playing it and judging it more specifically on what it actually felt like to play. We'll see in a follow-up in the finals judging how it actually feels, but I am concerned that it's at least giving me the impression that it's kind of complicated for something that looks like it's really meant to make me laugh a lot. So we'll see how that goes when we actually play. And the one other thing I would say just in general about your rules and shop page is that while I didn't dock points for this because a lot of the things were not really mistakes, but just things that tripped me up reading them. As like myself, I'm a native American English speaker, and some of the order and ways things were said are just not natural to me and trip me up a little bit. So I think that you could benefit from getting a native English speaker to help you edit the rules or give you like specific wording feedback to help make it sound more natural to an English speaker. That'll, I think, just make it easier for them to read it quickly and everything like that. So, but overall, very good job. Again, you're a finalist. So I'm looking forward to trying the game, and also I'll say again, really great job getting the vote out and having good calls to action and not being afraid to ask for what you want and ending up being first place in community voting. So great job. Hey there, thanks for watching. Be sure to check the description for more information and links to helpful resources. Some links will give me a commission if you choose to buy, and I sure do appreciate the support. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.